Did you know that iron deficiency affects more women than men, with 1 in 2 women in South Africa suffering from iron deficiency? Dr. FERRIMED joins us this morning to chat about the prevalence of iron deficiency in South Africa and the symptoms and signs and how one is able to treat it. Dr. FERRIMED, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me here.
We are talking all things iron deficiency. That's quite scary that, women tend to have more iron deficiency than men, but how common is it in South Africa?
So it's a worldwide problem, first of all. Every human being requires iron every day to function. And in our current population in South Africa, probably half of our women are iron deficient. So it's a huge number, 1 in 2. So if you're chatting to another lady, one of you is iron deficient, more than likely. And the problem is really that you guys have to maintain iron because with bleeding, with loss of blood, you lose iron. So to maintain iron stores, much more difficult for a woman than for a man.
I had no idea it was that common. And when I think of the different terms, and I'm hoping here you'll set it apart, because I always thought the one was the same as the other. What is the difference between iron deficiency and iron deficiency anemia?
So it is a brilliant question, because a lot of people don't know that distinction, and I think even doctors sometimes don't test far enough to understand, is this an iron problem or is it an anemia problem? So people tend to know anemia because this means I don't have enough blood. But it's fairly common, it's fairly easy to see if you haven't got enough blood, because you're going to have a lot of the symptoms which we all sort of know, which is tiredness or weakness or muscle aches or pains. And this is fairly common. But it's quite an easy test to see if I'm anemic. But underlying that, we actually have this iron pool in our body, which has many functions outside of blood as well as in blood. So most of our iron is in our blood. So this is why we've all kind of connected the two and have gone, oh, iron, and that must have something to do with my blood, and the one is little, and therefore the other one is little. But you can have the two completely separate of each other. And this will also affect your energy. This will affect your breathing. This will affect your exercise capacity. And because it's not really known or thought of, people aren't testing it or aren't suspecting it. And everyone just thinks anemia. No, it's not that, so therefore it can't be iron. So what we're trying to help the public understand is that both are important, and probably anemia is less common than iron deficiency. So iron deficiency on its own is very common. So a silly little analogy is if I'm driving in a car, I can have 4 tires on my car. That would be my blood volume. But if I don't know the pressure of the tires, or if the tires aren't on the road properly, this is the iron underlying it, which the tire needs to be pumped full as well to be able to drive nicely on the road. So you can have a missing tire, which is pretty obvious, or you can have flat tires, which is an iron deficiency.
That's a great way of explaining it. And yeah, now I understand it better. Now, you touched on it earlier that it's very important for women to watch their iron levels. But why is it so important, more so for women to, look after their iron deficiency, or in fact their iron levels, compared to men? So
because women are losing it more easily, women seem to be tired. I think a woman's job requires you to be busy all day long, morning till night. A woman's job is never done. You guys are at high risk of not maintaining your iron levels, whereas a man can maintain iron levels his whole life very easily. And so the sicknesses related to iron deficiencies can so easily be attributed to, well, I'm just tired, the baby's keeping me up, it's just the pregnancy. But it's not just the pregnancy, it can be the deficiency of the iron in the pregnancy. So women are very exposed during pregnancy as well, which is not something that we think about. So we might test their full blood count, their blood levels, which look normal, but their iron levels are low. And so I think this thing where women think, I'm just tired because life is long and hard, is actually sometimes just an iron deficiency in the background.
That's amazing that, I think so many of us suffer from that fatigue, and we just think, oh, it's because I'm so busy. But if you suspect you've got an iron deficiency, how can you test for it?
So if you have a blood deficiency, you can just see somebody who looks pale, dark rings under the eyes. You can even see that their nail beds are pale. So seeing anemia, low iron in your blood, is actually relatively easy. Most of us can spot those people. But if you actually want to know if your iron levels are low, And we'll talk about this in upcoming slots. The easiest, unfortunately, the only real way to know is to have it tested. And this can be done with a very simple blood test, a relatively inexpensive blood test, which looks at the different types of iron. And when I say different types, it's all iron, but in different forms or in different places in your body. So a pharmacy can help you with this, your GP can help you with this, but we do think that testing is very important of iron, not only of this thing called hemoglobin, which is the blood itself.
Now that we've discussed the symptoms, the testing, how can we treat iron deficiency?
So there we now live in a paradise of iron supplementation where iron is around. So the easiest thing to tell somebody is to eat a diet which is iron rich, and we'll touch on that as well later. But it's very difficult to catch up iron from diet alone. You're really going to be hard pressed to eat your iron back to normal because you really can't keep up with the losses, especially in the case of a woman. So there are supplements which you can normally buy off the shelf. Then there are therapies, and these are normally approved medicines that have been approved and trialed and tested to elevate your iron levels. They generally give you fewer side effects. These would be over the counter or from your pharmacist or from your doctor. And these do wonders in just increasing your iron over time. So it's not a quick fix, it's not a one-off thing. You'd need to go back 2 or 3 months maybe to have this iron taken every day as part of a supplement sort of therapy. And if that doesn't work, which we would normally test, then we can also give you iron as a drip. So this is a great way to give you iron. We drip it in, and that can get your iron levels up in a matter of hours, where sometimes your oral therapies would take weeks or months.
Okay.
And people get lazy, so they don't retest after they've taken it. So we really want to emphasize that too. Take the therapy, retest. Take the therapy until it's normal. So don't assume that your tablet has been absorbed.
Okay.
And go for the good stuff.
Go for the good stuff. Doctor, thank you so much for showing us and, imparting that knowledge on everything when it comes to iron deficiency. And everyone gets tired from time to time, but if you feel exhausted every day, you may be suffering from fatigue, a symptom of iron deficiency. If you are concerned about your symptoms, it's important that you find out with certainty whether iron deficiency is the reason by speaking to your doctor in order to work out what is causing your symptoms and how to treat it.
1 in 2 healthy South African women suffer from iron deficiency. Speak to your healthcare professional about getting tested and treated for iron deficiency. Brought to you by FERRIMED.